You're listening to the Radio Wammo Breakfast, only on Kiwi.
Well, a Raster, a wee Scots and a squad lobster are three new and unusual discoveries revealed by a NIWA Deep Sea Marine Biodiversity Survey. But what are these things and how were they discovered? Tracey, Deepwater scientist at NIWA, joins us this morning to talk about this. Good morning, Di.
Te Marie, Glenn. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Now, if you're a deepwater scientist, does that mean that you don the diving gear and go down and discover this stuff?
No. We're talking about great depths here, over 1,000 metres
of
sampling. So we use a towed camera system that was designed at NIWA, the DETIS camera system, and we're towing that along in these depths on seamounts on the Chatham Rise.
Now, is that like one of those robotic kind of things you can control and remotely?
We have a cable and we can drive it, but we can't take samples with it. We're just collecting video and camera still images. Yeah. We're going from the top of the seamount with the camera system and driving it down the slope or flank of the seamount.
Now a seamount is effectively an underwater mountain.
That's right, an underwater topographical feature. Some of them are as large as the mountains in New Zealand, some are as large as Taranaki, and we did survey a seamount called Shipley that's an underwater version of Taranaki, you could say.
Yeah.
Some are more small, hill-like features, more like Mount Victoria and Wellington.
Were they effectively volcanoes underwater?
Yes, a lot of them were volcanoes, and so they have hard flanks, a lot of volcanic rock, and but they're not active volcanoes. They're not the active seamounts that you would get in the north of New Zealand on the Kermadec Ring of Fire, for example.
Right.
Monowai seamounts quite active, but these seamounts aren't.
Now, you've been looking at the Chatham Rise. What's special about the Chatham Rise?
Well, we were on the Chatham Rise to describe the benthic biodiversity. So the animals without backbones, the invertebrates, were what we were interested in. And we went to two different areas because the water masses and the types of seamounts on the rise vary quite a lot. So we wanted to see what animals were on the northwestern region of the Chatham Rise at about 180 longitude, and we also wanted to look at the seamounts to the east of the Chatham Islands, so another 1,000 kilometres away.
Now, this must be an exciting area of science because it really is. It's almost like the first. It's like Darwin. It's like finding new species on Earth. Just when we think we've discovered everything, you find something new.
That's exactly right. We had been to what we call the graveyard seamounts before, and we'd collected samples and video footage, but we'd never been to the Andes seamounts with our camera systems. And it was like seeing these animals in situ in their natural habitat for the first time, and it was really exciting. Some of the footage was really stunning, and some of the samples we collected to ground truth our images that we collected with the camera system were just amazing and new, and that's where our surprising new species story came from.
Yes, now let's look at these new species. One of them you've called a Raster.
That's right, the Raster Coral. It's a deep sea, so we're talking very deep here. We're not talking barrier reef corals, we're talking about the deep sea corals, and we have lots of groups in New Zealand waters. And the Raster's a Gorgonian coral. It's called Narella. We know the genus, but we don't know the species, and we just gave it this quirky little common nickname because it does look a little bit like, the branches in particular look a bit like dreadlocks. So we came up with the polyps whirl around these branches that extend out from a base, and it does look quite dreadlocky.
And when you give it a name like Raster, so that is the official name that it will be known in science books around the world?
Not really. The science books, the formal naming system is still using the Latin names, but we do have common names that just aid us in the identification. So it might be picked up internationally, but that was our nickname. Squat lobster, for example, is quite a commonly used name. So for these small lobsters that we also found. And tam o' shanters, which you've also mentioned, the deep sea echinoderm, a bit like a soft kinner in the deep.
Yeah.
The Tam O'Shanter nickname's been around for a while, and that's fairly international.
Now this Tam O'Shanter, it's sort of black and white stripes coming out from the centre.
Yes.
With what look like spines on there as well.
Yes, it's a purpley black animal.
How big is it?
It's about the size of a bread and butter plate, I'd say, not a dinner plate. Yeah. They get to be quite large.
Do you think it'd be good eating?
There are some of the deep sea echinoderms that people have tasted.
Yeah.
More of the hard-shelled ones, but like our inshore kinner. No, I don't think so.
You won't be eating one anytime soon.
Not to us, some of the marine animals.
Describe a squat lobster.
Well, it's just like a small crab, really, with claws that extend from the top of the body. They're very small, and they're very common, but a lot of the species haven't been described in our region. So it's pretty exciting to see the various forms. Some of them have striped bodies, some of them are quite white, and others are quite orangey red. Have they
got a big a pincer, or what do you call it?
That's right.
At
yes.
the front.
Yes, one arm in particular has got a very large claw. So you're just imagining a crab that you see in the rock pools, but lives in a very deep environment.
Yeah. I'm just looking at one, I think maybe two now, I guess, is that a piece of coral?
That's a piece of a stony branching coral. Now, these corals are really common in the deep, and they form reef-like structures. So they form an ecosystem. So the squat lobsters are living on the coral. There are also often a lot of little sea stars and marine worms, polychaetes, found on these coral reefs. So the coral reefs grow and lay down calcium carbonate, and as the polyps extend and grow into the water, they lay down their skeleton that forms part of the ocean floor.
Yeah.
So it builds up the reef.
Do all these creatures, do they provide food for fish? Is it like the beginnings of life, I suppose, in the ocean?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. You're getting these structures, and the polyps are being fed on, and in turn the animals that are feeding on the polyps are being fed on, and so you get that whole food chain.
What is it in good condition down there at the moment?
Well, we saw some very, very pristine environments. The aim of the survey was to describe the animals, but also to look at hills or seamounts that had been fished, and ones that had been unfished, and ones that were closed to fishing, so protected seamounts. So under the Fisheries Act, we have quite a lot of the seamounts on the Chatham Rise closed completely.
Did you find a big difference between the two?
Yes, you certainly do see differences. I talked about the flank or slope of the seamount.
Yeah.
The trawling often takes part on one flank of the seamount or slope. But on other parts of the seamount, remember we're talking quite a large feature in many cases, we saw a lot of live coral, and so we saw live coral supporting other animals. So a bit of a mixture, really. Because
it's not only fishing that can potentially damage the coral. Of course, there's the issue of climate change as well, and we've been hearing a lot about the bleaching of coral around the world.
That's right.
Have you seen any evidence of that?
We haven't seen any evidence as yet. I mean, it is all very early days with that area of ocean acidification science, but clearly there'll be an impact on the deep sea animals that have calcium carbonate skeletons, as well as in the barrier reef region. So it is a serious anthropogenic effect. So we are starting some programs on looking at ocean acidification. One area I'm working on is mapping the distribution of all these branching corals that have a very big calcium carbonate structure, to just find out, well, where are they? And as you said, we went to some of these places for the first time, so we're building on our knowledge of where they are in the region.
Yeah.
And we know at what depth they're going to be impacted by increases in CO2 and therefore ocean acidification. And that gives us a lot of, basic data, really, to start with experimenting with the impact. measuring the impact.
Well, it's been interesting finding out about some of these things, and hopefully it's not the last time that we see them as well.
No, not at all. I mean, that is one of our jobs, and it's a good point. Some of them are rare, and we're measuring rarity. Some are very common, and so we're also measuring that as well. So how rare are these species, how common are they, and where are they? So those are kind of the key questions. So yes, hopefully we just are mainly collecting the data with our camera system. We are taking some samples to ground truth what we see, and hopefully they'll be there for centuries to come.
Exactly. And future scientists to come. Thanks very much,
That's right, Glenn.
Di Tracey, Deepwater scientist. Really appreciate your time.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
From NIWA, of course.